Hello, and welcome to Sacred Heart Music Center here in Duluth, Minnesota for the latest installment of Live from the Heart, Songwriters, Storytellers Series. My name is Walt Dizzo, and I'll be your host for the night. Tonight's live stream is supported by the Minnesota State Arts Board and highlights the finest music talent in the Northland. This monthly series features local songwriters, their creative process, and some stories behind their work. Tonight's guest is half of Cyr and the Cosmonauts. Siblings Eric and Rachel are here to perform a selection of songs from their two albums, Calloused, which was recorded here at Sacred Heart, and Songs to Sing Before We're Dead. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric and Rachel of Cyr and the Cosmonauts.
Summa, say something to me. Contra contradictions about the truth, you know they're just what we see. Gentle now, gentler, gentle now, the people just never knew. I've written books, I've written truth, I've written all I wrote it all for you. I've given it all, I've written it all for you. Now let me die in your arms and go on to something new. Before all that I saw, these scratches are nothing but straw. Let me see you again forever in eternity's mall. Call me dumb, call me simple, call me stupid, call me just what you like. But I could read and I could write and I could think like a saint when I was just a wee tyke. As I kneel, as I fall and fold my hands and pray, oh, let me rise up to you. Let my words do my work, let my work be done, let it all be through. I've given it all, I've written it all for you. Now let me die in your arms and go on to something new. Before all that I saw, these scratches are nothing but straw. Let me see you again forever in eternity's mall. Thank you. The song's called Bossa Fossa Nova. This next one is Will You Still Love Me? Which doesn't need a capo. I'll be so careful when I cut all the hair flowing out of your ears, though it's one of my fears to cut your toenails, tough as fierce dragon scales that could disembowel me or shatter a jowl. Gently I'll hold all the free-flowing rolls of the fat that will fall from you, scraping the wall that you'll have to expand when you can't reach your hand to your feet anymore. Say goodbye to the door. Will you still love me when I am so ugly that people will stare and they won't even care? They're breaking a rule and they look like a fool, but it's worth it to see me. Widows will pray and strong men run away when they see my face in a public place. Babies will cry and young girls want to die. Will you love me still? I'll clean your dentures when we're on adventures in far-off lands, holding hands in spite of bad weather. We'll stick together, though storms swarm and warn us to warm ourselves. I'll change your diaper and clean you and wipe your behind if I must, and I won't make a fuss. I'll pull up your pants if you don't have the chance, 'cause you can't use your hips or they've gone on the fritz. Will you still love me when I am so ugly that mirrors will break? Was it a mistake the first time you met me, and will you regret the first time that we kissed? Widows will pray and strong men run away when they see my face in a public place. Babies will cry and young girls want to die. Will you love me still? I'll sponge your armpit in spite of the harm it might do to my eyes, and I won't criticize the strange smell of your toes when I have to scrub those to massage the bunion. It smells like an onion. I'll wipe up the spittle that surely will riddle all of your clothes as your spit control slows. But I'll kiss your cracked lips and hold your weary hips next to me as I sing a sweet melody. Yes, I'll still love you when you're old and can't run to me anymore, and I still will adore the way that you smile or just stare for a while, 'cause who needs to always talk anyway? And yes, I'll still love you even when I'm sick of you and think I might go for a minute or so, but I'll never leave you. It's something I can't do. We'll stay and be withered together. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna grab the harmonica. This one is Cemetery Stone. Thanks to the folks who are here and are putting it together and who are out there wherever you are. Lands across the bed here like it always done at home, but the dust that hangs still in that sunshine ain't just skin you brush loose with the comb. When I die, I build a bench for my cemetery stone so my children can sit where I lay, and my grandkid can come with his girl Friday night, introduce her to me, tell me her name. In the still of this room, I go back there to that swing on the porch in my mind, and I rock with you pressed up beside me, feel the warmth of your hip warming mine. When I die, build a bench for my cemetery stone, so my children can sit where I lay, and my grandkid can come with his girl Friday night, introduce her to me, tell me her name. I can hear the soft tick clicking by me and the gentlest thrum of my breath. I can see your soft face when I close my eyes, feel your hand leading me into rest. When I die, build a bench for my cemetery stone, so my children can sit where I lay, and my grandkid can come with his girl Friday night, introduce her to me, tell me her name. Introduce her to me, tell me her name. Thank you.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you for playing for the gathered folks on the internet and here at Sacred Heart.
Thank you.
So it's a singer-songwriter competition, or story session. It's not really a competition.
Is it a competition?
You won the competition because you have the chance of doing this, yeah. So the songs you just played, those 3 tracks, have very different song stylings. You have a bossa nova track, a little folky, funny song, and like a When I'm 64 kind of vibe, and then you have the little more traditional Americana. When you set out to write songs, are you trying to write a specific style? Or do you feel like you just don't want to be pigeonholed and do a little bit of everything?
Yeah, some of both sometimes. So I would say my tendency is towards more of the Americana style. But like that bossa nova was definitely intentionally I'm going to write a bossa nova because it was about Thomas Aquinas dying at Fossa Nova. And so I was like, bossa nova, fossa nova would be a super cool song. So I needed to write a song about that. So I knew it had to be a bossa nova. But I'm also just interested in a lot of different musical styles. I studied music in college and played in jazz band, which I still enjoy playing in a big band, and just having that influence of different styles. So I wouldn't say that I do all of them perfectly, but I like trying to not just make an amalgam of influences, but pick this is the style I want to do and try to do that thing well.
The bossa nova, fossa nova, you mentioned it was about, I didn't catch what that was about. Can you explain what that song is about? Because obviously I'm not educated enough to know what the reference is.
St. Thomas Aquinas was a philosopher in the Middle Ages, and he wrote a ton. He's got volumes of philosophical works, and then he went to this place, a church in Fossa Nova, I don't know where Fossa Nova even is. What country it's in? Maybe France? I'm not actually sure. But he went to this.
I didn't even know what you're talking about. So
he went to this church in Fossa Nova, and that's where he died. And so when I found out he died at Fossa Nova, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I had a bossa fossa nova? And so then the song is about basically putting myself in the character of Thomas Aquinas as he's about to die, reflecting on his life and what he's done and dying.
Gotcha. Okay. I am familiar with Thomas Aquinas. I'm not. So when you are writing songs, do you do it collaboratively? There's two people in the band that are missing. The other Cosmonauts, I assume they're out on the Mirror or the space shuttle or wherever they're doing.
They're currently in orbit.
Right, in orbit.
That's right.
And we did ask off of stage, was there a reason for choosing Cosmonauts? Is it because of your name with Cyr rather than astronauts? Or what was the choice for Cosmonauts as your backing band?
Yeah, astronauts, it's one more use. So, like, the first time I heard Cosmonauts was not that long ago. I didn't realize that that was what the Russian space program was called, was the Cosmonauts. And then I heard it in discussion, actually like the same time that I found out that Thomas Aquinas died at Fossa Nova, a reference of, not still talking about Thomas Aquinas, but at the same time, a reference of them being the Cosmonauts, and I thought that had a cooler, first of all, it has a cooler sound to it, I think. Second of all, it's less familiar. So just an astronaut is like, everyone knows about astronauts. So a backing band called the Astronauts doesn't sound that interesting. And thirdly, I like the idea of, so the cosmos is like the universe and an ordered universe, versus astronaut is just like a star, which is way less cool than traveling through the cosmos to just be like, we're going to a star.
That's a great explanation, yeah. The other question I wanted to dispel, make sure too, you are brother and sister, right? Not in a White Stripes way, right? This is actually blood related.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When you're writing a song, are you doing it with the full band? Are you calling your sister and saying, let's get this together? Are you coming to the band with fully performed, ready to go songs?
Usually I have a guitar part fully written and the lyrics and melody written. And then I'll bring it to Rachel and be like, here's what I got, what do you want to sing with it? And then she'll come up with the vocal part, the harmony to go with it. And we might talk about like a line and toss out some ideas, but pretty much she comes up with what she wants to do with it. Have you always sang together? I mean, from a young age?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know if this is close enough. We kind of grew up singing together because our dad always played guitar, so he would play certain songs and ourselves and our two older siblings would kind of sing with him. So it's kind of just something we've always done and then transitioned into doing it more as he started writing more music.
Did you have a family band growing up? You said your dad played guitar. Were they?
We didn't, but we were most of us were fairly musically involved.
Anybody walking by the front porch in small town southern Minnesota, that was the family band.
Nice. Did you said you have other siblings as well. Are they also musical?
Yes, mostly. We have many siblings.
There's 6 of us total, and the oldest 2 don't play a lot of music. And then the next middle 2 do a bit, and then Rachel and I are the 2 youngest.
Okay, the baby's got the
that's right. Baby's got the music.
Have you thought about joining all and do a 6-part harmonies and all that?
Not as a performing band, although we've talked about trying to get our brother Tim to play bass with us. Yeah. And we do, we all got started playing band instruments, so even sometimes still we'll do, especially at like Christmas time, get together and play. I am a band teacher during most of the time, and so I had just take music from school and then have us play it just for fun. So we'll still do that together with those other siblings too. And
you're a middle school teacher?
Yes, that's right.
Do you find that kids are an inspiration for your songwriting, or are you giving them, are they songwriters themselves? Have you taught the act of writing down melodies and maybe lyrics? I think kids are very lyrical. They're always coming up with things. Have you been inspired by the kids or vice versa, do you think?
I
hope you're inspiring them at least.
I hope that I'm inspiring them in some way. I don't intentionally teach lyrical writing. I do in jazz band teach improvisation and try to that sort of thing, which is creative but structured. As far as lyrical writing, I haven't ever intentionally taught that. But I don't know, hopefully a lot of the students that I teach know that I'm in a band, and some of them couldn't care less, and some of them think it's really cool, so it goes some of both.
Is it just band or choir as well?
I just do band.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rachel, you in your profession work with folks in speech. Do you get to use your singing chops in your job? Are you getting folks to sing?
I do a little bit. I do. A lot of times with individuals with dementia, for example, music is a part of the brain that kind of will endure even when other areas don't. So sometimes bringing in musical elements will kind of unlock a part of them and a memory and an ability to sing where they might not be able to talk. So I do use it in that capacity.
That second song you wrote about, I mean, the fact that you work in a dementia ward or in a behavioral setting, clinics, any tie-in for her job, or is that just the fact that we're all going to eventually be old and not ugly necessarily, but is it the fact that, you know, getting older is something to celebrate and being with someone you care about?
Yeah, so it wasn't, I didn't have the idea like connecting her job and that song, but more that love songs are often kind of shallow. Not always, there's some really great love songs in the world, but they can be, and so writing, yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about when I'm 64 when I wrote it, but it definitely is that same kind of idea of we have the feeling and the ideas now, but down the road it won't be the same, and how love endures through that.
Yeah, without just being sappy about it.
Yeah.
The ugly part of love is kind of
Right.
You don't get to hear that very often.
Right.
I discovered a little bit when looking into your background that you are also a fiction writer and nonfiction. I've read a lot of short stories and flash fiction, I guess, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, really short stories. Is that something you've always done? And what is your take on what becomes a song and what is a piece of prose? Or are they intertwined?
Yeah. I've been writing songs longer than I've been writing fiction, but in undergrad I studied music, but I also got a BA in English as well. So I've been interested in reading and literature, but I didn't really start writing or even thinking of trying to write until kind of after I had graduated. I had taken a short story class and read like George Saunders for the first time and Flannery O'Connor and some other authors I really liked, and so I just had some ideas. I started writing that way. And then
That's probably why I like those. Those are two of my favorite authors.
Oh yeah?
So, yeah.
Well, there we go. We're on the same wavelength. Yeah, so those two, I'm excited for George Saunders' new book. It comes out in actually a month from today. I have a Barnes & Noble gift card I've been saving to buy specifically that book. But I've since then pursued it a lot more. So I'm currently doing a Master's of Fine Arts in Fiction Writing, and there's those little like quick fiction that I've published just on a blog with some other writers that I know. As far as like what becomes a song or a story, when I write songs, usually I don't often come to it with like this is my idea and this is the song I'm going to write. I know that's what I said about Bossa Nova, which is what happened. But more often I just kind of come up with a guitar line that I like and then start singing whatever comes to mind and then kind of go from there. So most of the time when I write a song, it's kind of like I sing a first line and then see what does that lead to next. So it's less bringing an idea, and I would say less often do I do that writing. Writing, more often I'll either have a big idea or I'll just have like an image, like, okay, this is where the story starts and then what happens, which I guess is similar in that first line. But
I've always wondered, as a creative, as an observationalist, your writing, I think, is you're the person sitting in the coffee shop and overhearing people talk or watching someone and their unique actions and kind of picking up on that. When do you know when the story stops? Like, I read a piece about the throwing the dog poo, which I was like, wow, what a great ending to a short story. And they're all very, what's the word? They're philosophical. Like, you kind of wonder the bigger picture of like this little action determining, the whole life. When do you know when to stop a story or stop a song, or I'm always kind of curious as a performer.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes, like writing fiction, I do a lot more kind of going back and editing, and so sometimes, basically, when to stop it, I find out along the process, kind of like if something didn't work and I figure out why. Is there something that went too long and needed to be cut, or is there some unanswered question? The little flash pieces are kind of fun because you're kind of just giving an image mostly. You don't have to come up with like a ton of story. It's just like, here's a scene, put enough implication in it that the reader can think there's more to this than just this, but you're kind of just giving that one image. So I don't know, a lot of times those kind of things feel very self-contained. And so you finish that kind of image and then it's done. I guess a song, because it's more shorter, is more often similar to that. Like Cemetery Stone, where it was kind of started with this image of having a bench instead of a headstone. And then like, why does a person want that? And then just writing from that character's point of view and just giving it enough of a sketch where you're like, okay, this is a flashback and a what's happening now, and that, making that just circle of what's enough information that tells the story. Basically, as little information as I can give and tell the full story, I think, is richer than trying to kind of overload it. A song also, most often, is like, okay, if I get 3 good verses and a good chorus and maybe a bridge in there, it has more of like a inherent structure.
Right.
You could go the Bob Dylan route and you're just like cranking them out, but it usually feels like if I got 3 good verses, then I've got what I need, and I got to fit the information in there.
Yeah, not everyone needs to write Alice's Restaurant. I mean, that's, they have songs do have endings. Are you an editor for these songs or short stories at all? Are you?
I'm not much of a reader, so he doesn't usually have me read his stories.
These are short. Don't worry, you can get through them.
The short ones I do. I will read. I'll sometimes send him a little message. Hey, that was good. That's about it. The songs, more often, he'll play for me. I wouldn't say that I give too many notes because he is by far the more creative and musically talented one. But occasionally I'll maybe give a little idea, or we'll just play around with kind of the melody and harmony more than anything is where we kind of collaborate, I guess.
Is there a spot in town or generally what your audience is looking for you to be at? Do you have you're not pigeonholed in the song structures of what you're playing, but do you have a place that you usually play, or do you have an audience that you typically finds you, do you think? You've been at this for a while.
Yeah,
like, I know you've been doing this for...
Yeah. That's a good question. We got started at Wuso's kind of. Jason was really helpful. In 2018, I won the Songwriter concert there, and he's helped us.
That's why I said it earlier. That's what I knew. I knew you from that.
Wanted to bring that up. So he was helpful, and then just kind of gradually making connections. I'm not an overly gregarious, talkative person, so I don't make like a ton of connections, and I'm also, like, we're all doing other things, so I guess it hasn't been like a nose to the grindstone kind of performer. So we've played at Ursa Minor a lot, we've played at Wuso's a lot. We've hit a lot of other places, but I wouldn't say we have like a haunt that we keep going back to. And
you put out a record during a pandemic, so was that a struggle to get people to know that you're still creating, or is that kind of a boon to you to have that time off to work on a new record?
Yeah, we started recording it like 2 months before everything shut down, and then it kind of got dragged out. It didn't, like, for what we're doing musically, I think that we were still able to reach the people who we probably would have reached either way. By the time we had the record released and we were hitting like the summer of 2021, there were shows that were happening a lot outside again. We were able to play some of those shows and promote it, and just like send it out to some different radio stations and different things. So it has always been kind of a fairly small hustle.
Is that the goal for it? Keep it small, insular, family oriented, or are you trying?
No, I would. I guess in theory, I'm like, I could be the next Justin Bieber, but in practice, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't know why I
didn't know how to respond to that.
I don't know why I picked Justin Bieber, but just because, back when I was a youth, Justin Bieber was creme de la. Everybody knew who he was. It's interesting. I teach middle schoolers, and I have finally, like this year, last year, gotten to the age where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. I was pretty good. Up until like 30, I was like, I know what's going on. You think that you know things I don't. And now they reference like YouTube stars, and I'm like,
a lot of YouTube rappers.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Has it inspired you to rap at all? Have they challenged you to do anything? Are you
on
YouTube?
But we were talking about in class today, in my religion class I'm teaching to 8th grade boys, talking about Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac, and There's a lot of Post Malone references that they bring up. I at least know who they are, but these are not artists that I...
Do you teach religion and band at the same time?
Yeah. Well, not the same class period, but on the same day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more to ask.
Yeah. Although there could be overlap.
I want to ask about some songs and references. You have biblical references and some. Can we talk about that after we hear a few more songs?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'd love to do that. Bones was one of my favorites, by the way. I don't know if you're playing that, but that was a jam.
We weren't going to, but we could.
Yeah, I think.
All right,
if I get to make a request. All right, a couple more songs from Cyr and the Cosmonauts.
All right, sounds good. All right. All right, here we go. By request. This is Bones. If I remember how to play it. Well, I walked through the valley of the bones, them dry bones. All I saw around me was a yawning jaw of death. And then my Lord said to me, can you keep their company? Son of man, can these dry bones bring back life? I said, Lord, it's you alone that knows. Oh my Lord, it's you alone that cares. When our hope is lost, gone, cut off, dead as stones. Can you spit and rave and praise these dry bones? Well, he looked down and smiled, a right jaw grin so sly, and said, prophesy to these bones that rise from death. And I'll put new flesh within, and I'll cover each with skin, roll a spirit rushing in and out as breath. I said, Lord, it's you alone that knows. Oh my Lord, it's you alone that cares. When our hope is lost, gone, cut off, dead as stone. Can you split the grave and praise these dry bones? Well, I lowered down my head and I spoke just like he said. And bones came tumbling to my ears. In a rattle, clatter, chattering roar, bone drawn bone before my very eyes, and I stared into the socket of death. And then skin and flesh both grew, held tight by strong sinew, and before me stood strong men as fresh as life. And four winds began to blow, breathe life into their souls, and that army looked as strong and vast as death. I said, Lord, it's you alone that knows. Oh my Lord, it's you alone that cares. When our hope is lost, gone, cut off, dead as stone. King is split and brave and crazy, dry bones. When it all was done, the Lord said, look here, son, all these men are the house that has decayed, and I'll raise it up again, I'll make them all new men. They'll live in this, I swear it will be done. They'll live in this, I swear it will be done. You'll live in this, I swear it will be done. Thank you. All right, this song is called Greyhound Bus. Don't you close your eyes anymore. Don't you care to see Don't you leave your boots on the floor. Ain't you coming with me? I got a one-way ticket on that Greyhound bus tonight, in a sleeper car that's big enough for two. We ain't coming back again until we both remember when our love is all we knew we'd ever need.
Winter's long, it'll take your breath away, steal right into your dreams, freeze your breath and black the sun out of the day, make you forget all of our schemes.
I got a one-way ticket on that Greyhound bus tonight, in a sleeper car that's big enough for two. We ain't coming back this side until we both remember why our love is all we knew we'd ever need. Well, it's a dark night that breaks into a dawn that's darker still. It's a bright day that rises with light that burns away the chill. Now won't you lay down by this river next to me and watch the water pouring past? Just close your eyes and feel my breath against your cheek, and let this simple moment last. I got a one-way ticket on that Greyhound bus tonight, in a sleeper car that's big enough for two. We ain't coming back again until we both remember when our love is all we knew we'd ever need. We ain't coming back this side until we both remember why our love is all we knew we'd ever need. Our love is all we knew we'd ever need. All right, we'll play one more for now. This one is called Sail Away. Sail away, oh my darling, sail away. In the night before the morning, sail away. And you'll take my heart with thee, cross the wide and raging sea, till in the darkness for the light, oh, sail away. For the light, oh, sail away. Sail away, oh my darling, sail away. In the night before the morning, sail away. And you'll take my heart with thee, cross the wide and raging sea, till the darkness for the light, oh, the strength to stay and prove your word was true. As the tears cut down your face and you begged to God for grace, even then I saw by night you'd sail away. Sail
darkness for the light, oh, sail away. In the evening of the day, there was nothing left to say, just the restless look of longing in your eye. It was then I bowed my crown, cast my eyes down to the ground. When I looked again, I knew you'd sailed away.
Sail away, oh my darling, sail away. In the night before the morning, sail away. And you'll take my heart with thee across the wide and raging sea, till the darkness for the light, oh, sail away.
Well, that sounded amazing.
Thank you.
Those voices are meant to be performed in Sacred Heart,
It's a sweet,
for sure.
It's a cool place to play.
The song obviously had some religious vibes to it, and do you feel like, or do you get to perform in these kind of spaces very often? Do you get to perform in houses of worship and big cathedrals, or is that kind of where your songs get performed?
No, more often.
More like bars.
More often bars, breweries.
Breweries.
Yeah.
Different kinds of houses
Art-
of worship.
Artie Quinlan's.
Yeah, other people.
Archie Quinlan's. Different vibe. Do you have, or I have another question, but I'll get there later. But talking about religion, so you teach religious studies to middle school?
Yeah, so I teach at the Catholic school in town. So I teach like theology.
Okay.
As part of my job. Mostly I do band, but then I do that as well.
How much, as a songwriter, is your religious beliefs and in the teachings that you are, studying? How much does it play a role in your songwriting?
I'd say definitely, like just kind of worldview-wise, or like my influences-wise, it definitely is influenced by being Catholic. Like, I don't write dogmatic songs. Actually, so Flannery O'Connor is Catholic, which a lot of people who read her, you may not pick up on right away. And she was kind of intentional in two things. One, that influenced the way that she wrote, and also that she wasn't writing kind of doctrine or dogma. That she was writing an experience, she was writing reality. She wasn't writing to convince anyone of something, but that what she was writing was influenced by her own kind of view. And so I would say, not to say that I am as good as Flannery O'Connor, because I think that she's one of the best writers in the world, just on a technical skill level, right? But I think that in a similar way, I have my own kind of worldview that I bring to writing, but that isn't what makes it kind of technically good or bad, if that makes sense. So it influences kind of my ideas or approach to things, but I'm not trying to write kind of hymns or church music, something that I would perform in church, if that makes sense.
It's not, worship songs as
Right.
you see at Bayfronts during the festival or
Right,
something like that,
yeah.
which I think is, Flannery O'Connor, that's his name. Harry Crews, have you read Harry Crews? One of my favorite authors.
I don't think so.
Okay. Inspired by Flannery.
Okay.
I don't
will
know.
have to read. I'll have to check it out.
I don't know his religious background, but
Yeah.
a lot of characters. When you write from the Deep South, there's always religion present
That's
in
true.
everything you do,
Yeah.
whether it's a good force
Right.
or bad.
Right, and you see that in Flannery O'Connor too. You don't always see religion in a great light. There's a lot of bad preachers in her work, but it definitely is influenced by that kind of
Sure.
Culture.
In setting up that example as a songwriter, one of the stories that I read, I don't know if it was a nonfiction or just a thought you had, is about teaching to embrace like sincerity and being uncool.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that? That was a really interesting topic.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably like one of the only couple of non-fiction things
I did
that I
a deep
posted
dive
on
on
that.
Eric Cyr.
Yeah, it was on.
Yeah. I read all
on
your
that
work.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Part of that comes from my own, like how I viewed the world when I was younger, middle school, high school, and I think it's pretty. You notice it in adolescence a lot, which basically like we can create like a shield of irony, basically. Actually, David Foster Wallace writes about this in an essay in 1993 that was really influential in a lot of authors after him. This idea of a new sincerity, and actually I think some other people after he wrote that tagged him and some other people the new sincere writers, because postmodernism is all about like walls of irony, putting yourself behind like. You can never nail down what they actually believe. Everything is like a front. I'm doing it ironically. And there's such a distance from the person that you create in that. And you kind of build a protective shell around yourself in that, and you can't really get to know somebody else. And like as human beings, we're gonna do stupid things, and we're gonna say things, and we're gonna believe something that then we change our mind and we're like, oh, that was a dumb thing to believe. But if we're always protecting ourselves with that wall of irony, then there's not really any growth. There's just like this stagnation. Even in like satire, like I like a lot of forms of satire, but satire isn't really an end in itself. Satire is like, look at this thing that is hypocritical or wrong, okay, and then after you point it out, then you have to fix it. Satire as just a mode of seeing is just purely negative, and so it needs a sincerity to be able to say, what can we actually do for the good?
That's a great way to connect with your middle school audience. So many of honestly, the rappers today, what's popular is Post Malone and folks who are like, wear their heart on their sleeves and being overly sincere and telling you everything about their lives, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Not every, TikTok rapper, but I know a lot of them have a very emotional well-being. It's back to the emo I grew up listening to now being emo rappers. How do you connect with your students in that topic? Do you find that they're still fronting and still trying? I mean, everyone tries to be something they're not, especially at that age.
Right.
How do you, if you're out there watching now, not just as a songwriter, how do you bring sincerity into your art, whether it's songwriting or, parenting? There's an art to parenting. So how do you do that? What's your advice?
On being sincere in those things?
How do you bring sincerity into your art?
That's a good question.
I wasn't trying to stump you, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's different ways to do it. Because there are some people who are like, what you're talking about, like confessional kind of writers. So there's songwriters who their songs are all kind of diary mode. Like about themselves and processing things. And I think that there's people who do that really well. The Lone Bellow is one of my favorite bands, and Zach Williams writes the songs, and I think he does that a lot really well. It can also be done poorly because when we're like caught up in our emotions, it's easy to just like spew things out and they're not done artistically. And I don't tend toward that kind of songwriting very much, where it's like sincere in here's exactly here's like my feelings and here's what I'm thinking about this thing, if that makes sense. But it's more, I guess I write songs in a little bit more of a fictive sense, or like trying to tell a story that gets at the truth. So like that song Cemetery Stone, I was imagining a person dying, and I wrote it at the beginning of the COVID pandemic when there were people who were dying alone. And they couldn't even have their family around them in hospitals, right? And imagining that, and I think like that song is completely made up based on what I kind of imagined and based on seeing a cemetery bench. But I think it's sincere in trying to kind of lay bare this reality, I guess, and recognize truth both in its brokenness and in its beauty, whether that is somebody who's doing it kind of a confessional songwriting style, or somebody, what I try to do, a little bit more circumspect kind of view.
You can tell you teach. Yeah, you can tell Maybe not something so deep. Let's try it. You wrote a song about the Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
The first performance you did for Homegrown in Duluth was on the trolley.
That's right.
Can you talk about how it was performing your confessional, beautiful harmonies amongst a bunch of drunken revelers on a trolley? And have you tried that again since Homegrown? Have you just got on the DTA and started doing it?
We haven't done that. One time when I was in college, I went on the bus with like 3 trombones to try to get...
That's too many trombones.
It was, actually. No, late at night, I went on with 3 trombones just to try to get a picture that I was going to use for my senior recital poster. It ended up that it was too dark. It didn't work, so I revised. But that's my only experience, other than the DTA trolley, Homegrown, of carrying my instruments on the bus. We have not tried it since then.
It was very bumpy.
It was very bumpy. There was a lot of we were on the back bench and sliding.
Hard to sing.
I would definitely approach it differently now. Again, we were a little bit maybe too sincere in our approach, and we were like, we're going to go and we're going to play our songs. It's going to be awesome. And then Al Church came on after us, and he was playing Dancing Queen and getting people to sing along. It was like, if you're out on the trolley, that's probably the route that you should go, rather than trying to play
People wouldn't get off of the trolley when Al was on.
I know.
It was so stuffed, yeah. He's a natural born performer.
So I think, if I went back on now, I would. I've learned a lot performing of what is the venue and the crowd and the songs I should play. And sometimes you can play Will You Still Love Me, and sometimes you have to do da na 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 na. So you just gotta play the crowd.
Well, that's why I thought Bones is kind of a crowd favorite. I'm sure
those more higher energy songs are good for.
For sure.
For that kind of thing.
Before we wrap things up, I have just one more question. What advice would you give to songwriters out there that are struggling to get a concept on paper? I'm sure you have maybe at some point hit a blank space. What do you do to confront that as somebody who teaches art?
I would, if somebody's just starting out, I guess my thoughts would be similar either way, which are more or less when I started out, I wrote a lot of bad songs. Now I write some bad songs, and I think more good songs. So first of all, is just keep doing it, and listening for try to imitate other people. I think that some people feel if they're imitating someone else, it's they're not being creative, and it's got to be their own thing. It's got to be purely from the heart, everything their own, which doesn't really happen. We have influences whether we realize it or not. So sometimes just diving in and being okay, I'm going to write, how does John Prine write a song? He tells a story, he does it this way. I'm going to try to do his style, right? Or even learning the chord progression from another song. You hear something, that sounds good. What's that chord progression? I can learn it and then put that into a song. So using those influences intentionally can be really helpful and lead to not stolen songs, but maybe someday. I always figure I'd have to get a lot higher up in the world of making money before it would matter if somebody sued me. So I'm not too concerned at this point. But so using influences, I was joking, but not stealing songs. But use those influences and find out what do other people do. Imitate other people, and then if you're stuck on a song or you write a bad song, go to something else. If an idea isn't working, go to something else. Even most often I would say songs come pretty quick when I'm writing them, and I'm pretty happy with them. Bones, I was working on that with a different style and that chord progression for a few years, and then I was finally okay, this is a way that it works. So sometimes coming back to it later, or sometimes just saying, I've got other songs in the tank. It always feels this song that I wrote right now is the last time I'm ever going to be able to write a good song. I'm never going to be able to do something good again. And then you do something else good, and you're oh, I did it. And now it's that's going to be the last one. So I think that's something that almost all artists, creatives face is I can't do it anymore. I did it then, that was it. And just keep going.
But almost every artist I've ever talked to, their favorite song is what they're working on now. Yeah. It's the newest song. Yeah. It's even no matter how good it was, the next one is the best one for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Last question. I know briefly in college you worked at Glen Sheen.
Yeah.
So did I.
You both did?
Yeah.
How many of your songs are inspired by the ghosts of Glen Sheen? And do you have any hidden
Maybe
details?
That should be the next big hit.
Yeah, we should work. We should work on the Ghosts of Glen Sheen.
Do you have any stories
It'll be
inspired
like-
by Glen Sheen on any of your albums? They're kind of dark but hopeful albums. So like
That's true.
Glen Sheen is kind of that epitome.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Although, if you know anybody who books the concerts on the pier, put in a good word for us.
I do, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you can put in a good word for us, we could play the pier. No, I haven't. I haven't thought about any Glen Sheen influence on the songs that I've written, but it is something to consider.
Okay.
And you could, you could then sandwich the record of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and then you go straight into the Ghosts of Glen Sheen, and you've got your Duluth set ready to go.
Will you thank me on your album for
I will.
inspiration?
I will.
Sure.
I will put you in the thank you letter.
Anything else we want to cover? Anything else? Any words to the kids out there? Or your friends or family? Your band? You want to mention your other bandmates? I don't think we've actually said their names.
Yeah, on drums, we have Brady Confinkel, who is a poet and professor at UWS now. He was at Scholastica for a couple years, and he's teaching at UWS this year. And then John McLaughlin on keyboards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And they're on the newest album.
Yeah, actually, John kind of joined the band afterwards, but Brady was playing on it. Yeah, we had a different keyboardist playing on the album.
All right.
Yeah.
I have nothing more other than to say thank you.
Thank you.
Read my outro and hear another song from you. Does that sound good?
Great.
Perfect.
Yeah, can I just say this last song that we're gonna play?
Yeah.
This is a new song that we just wrote. Well, I just wrote like last week. So I have 4 kids, and for the oldest 3, I had a song for each of them that was like written to them for them. And my youngest had gone a year and a half plus his 9 months of knowing that he was in the womb. And I hadn't written a song, and my wife was like, Judah's gonna be mad at you. He doesn't have a song. So finally, I wrote him this song. So it's for my youngest son, and I'm hoping I'll remember the words.
I
that's
hope
it.
so too. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again to Eric and Rachel from Cyr and the Cosmonauts for appearing here on Live from the Heart Songwriters Storytellers Series. A big thank you to Eric Swanson for running sound, and Jose Leon and crew for the video production tonight. Live from the Heart is brought to you by Sacred Heart Music Center with support from the Minnesota State Arts Board. You can go to sacredheartmusic.org to find out what's coming up next at the center. And I'm going to give you a clue what's coming up next. Next month, October 20th, is going to be a double singer-songwriter bill featuring Humbird and Lanou. As always, information is available on Sacred Heart Facebook and Instagram page. Now with one more song, Cyr and the Cosmonauts.
I hear the patter of your naked feet across the wooden floorboard in the fall. I hear your laughter shouting out to greet your brothers and your sister down the hall. So be of pure heart, be of joyful mind. Close your eyes and listen and remember. Oh, be courageous, be simple and be kind. Bloom with warmth of spring in dark December. Yes, bloom with warmth of spring in cold December. And when the snow blows in bitter, brittle heaps, drifting round your window in the winter, the cold within you may gather, grow, and leap, seep under your skin just like a splinter. But be of pure heart, be of joyful mind. Just close your eyes and listen and remember. Oh, be courageous, be simple and be kind. Bloom with warmth of spring in dark December. Yes, bloom with warmth of spring in cold December. And when you feel the fire of summer's heat burning in your body like a forest, oh, let the coolness of love lap on your feet and wash away your worries in a torrent. And be of pure heart, be of joyful mind, just close your eyes and listen and remember. Oh, be courageous, be simple and be kind, bloom with warmth of spring in dark December. Yes, bloom with warmth of spring in cold December. Oh, bloom with warmth of spring in cold December. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, well, I had to remember.